Hello from Mindset Daily, wishing you a day full of health, peace, and happiness. Thank you for watching the Mindset Daily channel. Don't forget to like and subscribe to support us. Thank you so much.
Have you ever wondered why some people seem to start their mornings with power while others stumble into chaos? What if the secret to success wasn't about long hours, but about a single, simple choice at the very start of your day? And what if I told you that 5 minutes each morning could rewire your entire life? Most people begin their mornings reacting, rushing, worrying. But the few who win, they start with intention. Before the world grabs their mind, they claim it. One small act, repeated daily, separates the scattered from the powerful. It doesn't take hours, just a decision, a ritual that leads your day before it leads you. In a moment, I'll show you how to take control of your life with one morning habit. Wake with purpose before the world stirs, before the sun rises, before the noise begins. You rise not to scramble, but to own your moment. Most people open their eyes without a plan. They wait for the day to happen to them. But you are not most people. The moment you wake, you stand at a crossroads. You can drift into another ordinary day, or you can command it like a general stepping into battle. Because here's the truth. If you wake without a mission, you've surrendered your power before even standing up. And what does this mission look like? It's not loud or grand. It's silent, internal. It begins by asking, what am I here to do today? Not what must be done, but what do I choose to build? Take 5 minutes, sit up in bed, and don't move until you've spoken purpose into your day. Say it clearly. Today I advance. Today I endure. Today I rise no matter what stands in my way. This small act rewires your spirit. It trains your mind to follow your will, not the other way around. Picture the man who wakes before his children, before the factory bell, before his fields need tending. He doesn't rush, he doesn't complain. He stands at the window, speaks his aim for the day, then marches toward it. The question is, will you wake and wonder what the day holds? Or will you wake and tell the day what it will be? Confront the mirror and command your standard. When the world hasn't spoken yet, stand before the mirror not just to see your reflection, but to face your standard. Who you are meets who you said you'd be. This moment carries more weight than most realize. Many walk past the mirror, avoiding its stare, but every morning you must stop. Look yourself in the eye and ask, am I becoming the person I promised to be? Because the truth is, it's not your job, not your family, not your surroundings that hold you back. It's the quiet agreements you've made to remain the same. You tell yourself, maybe tomorrow I'll change, but the mirror knows better. Stand still, hold your gaze, and declare, today I set my tone. I don't wait to feel strong. I say I am strong. I don't wait to feel motivated. I decide I am ready. Here's the secret. Confidence doesn't come after success. It comes before. It's forged in these silent declarations, repeated until belief becomes instinct. Think of the man in overalls rubbing sleep from his eyes. He faces a cracked mirror, nods once, and steps into the world with his head held high. Not because of who he is, but because of who he is becoming. So tomorrow, when you look in the mirror, will you speak power or excuse? Move your body before doubt wakes, before hesitation arrives, before yesterday's failures whisper back. Move. You weren't designed to sit idle and think your way into greatness. You were built to act, to engage, to move blood before you move ideas. Yet most people wait. They say, let me wake up a little. But the longer you wait, the heavier your body feels. With it, your courage, your discipline, and your clarity grow heavier too. The moment you put your body into motion, you remind yourself, you are not helpless, not stuck, not fragile. You are capable. You are alive. And movement is the proof. It doesn't have to be dramatic. Stretch, walk, breathe. You're not building muscle, you're building certainty. You're telling your spirit, I go when it's hard. I go when I don't want to. I go. Picture a man on a cold wooden floor at dawn. He doesn't wait for comfort. He drops to the ground and begins counting, not just reps, but reasons to rise. So ask yourself, are you moving because you feel ready, or do you move to become ready? Now, write down one bold, specific goal for the day. Too many live in circles, busy but directionless. They check boxes yet build nothing, because they never decide what matters. And what you don't write, you won't do. Each morning, write down one clear goal. Not 10, not 5, just one. Why one? Because one task completed outweighs 100 intentions. When everything matters, nothing does. This goal isn't about ease, it's about progress. It could be writing 3 pages, making a hard call, or solving a lingering problem. Whatever it is, it must matter. It must stretch you. Write it in ink, not just in thought. Think of a craftsman placing a single piece of wood on the bench each morning. He doesn't dream of tomorrow's chair. He shapes today's cut. That's how mastery is built. So grab your notebook, or tear out a page from yesterday, and write your aim. Stare at it until it feels like a vow. The real question is, will you let the day dictate your direction, or will you choose where to strike first? Start with gratitude before you ever let complaint leave your lips. Every morning, you step into the arena of life, and the first words you choose, before anyone else hears them, become the drumbeat of your day. Most people open their eyes with a sigh, a groan, or a complaint. Too early, too tired, too much. In that instant, they hand their energy to defeat before the day even begins. They speak weakness, and weakness becomes their identity. But you are not average. You were not made to live on your knees. You were built to rise with purpose, with direction, with strength. Here's the truth. Your words are not just sounds, they are seeds. And what you plant in the morning is what grows. Most people plant weeds. They let discomfort decide their tone. They forget the mind is a battlefield, and every complaint is surrender. Real power begins when you flip the script, when you speak gratitude before complaint, strength before struggle, vision before fear. This isn't softness or blind optimism. It's discipline, precision, intensity. You don't just say, "I'm thankful for life," and move on. You say, "I'm thankful my lungs are strong enough to breathe. I'm thankful my scars didn't break me. I'm thankful that even after 1,000 failures, I still woke up with one more chance to fight." These are not empty affirmations. They are declarations, weapons forged in silence, power spoken into motion. Picture a man waking in darkness. His body aches, his past still haunts him, and the weight of the world is pressing down. But instead of complaining, he sits up and says, "Thank you." Not because it's easy, not because he's comfortable, but because he knows one truth. The fight is not over. He's still breathing, still moving, still becoming. And that alone is enough to make him dangerous. You don't need everything to start strong. You only need the right focus. If you begin the day counting your weapons, your grit, your breath, your hope, your hands, you rise with a different spirit. The world doesn't shape you. You shape the world. But if you start by counting wounds, doubts, and lack, you fight with a limp before the battle even begins. Every morning is a war between fear and faith, between comfort and courage. So ask yourself, are you reinforcing the version of you that is tired and afraid, or the one that is rising, ready, and unbreakable? The truth is always in your words. Review your vision, not the news. Each morning, before the noise of the world breaks in, you stand at a threshold. And whether you notice it or not, that threshold is sacred. It's the gate between your inner world and everything external, the drama, deadlines, doubts, and distractions. Leave it unguarded, and chaos will walk in without knocking. The first message you allow into your mind becomes the seed from which your entire day grows. For most people, that seed is sour. They wake and reach for headlines, complaints disguised as conversation, or digital noise screaming urgency over clarity. The moment they take in that first negative input, they surrender their agency. From that point on, they're no longer leading their mind. They're being led. Led by someone else's fears, someone else's focus, someone else's noise. But you were not built to be an echo. You were built to create, to lead, to architect something greater. And architects never begin their day by reacting. They begin each day by consulting the blueprint. That blueprint is your vision. It's the picture of the life you are building, brick by brick. If you don't see that blueprint first thing in the morning, you forget why the struggle matters. You lose clarity on what you're creating. And worst of all, you end up constructing someone else's project while your own foundation quietly crumbles. That's why it must become a ritual. Before the world intrudes, take 3 minutes in silence. Let your mind settle like dust after a storm. Pick up your vision, not as a distant dream, but as a present instruction. Read the goals you've written, not passively, but with belief. Speak one line aloud, a line that sharpens you, that reminds you why you carry discipline. It might be, "I am a builder of strength," or "I command my fate," or "I move toward wealth with discipline." These are not weak affirmations. They are declarations, weapons, shields, armor for the mind before battle. Picture a man in a dim kitchen on a cold morning. He doesn't complain. He opens a worn notebook, the one filled with hopes, plans, and truths. He reads his dream again, not because he doubts, but because repetition turns belief into reality. He steps into the day not with noise, but with direction. So ask yourself, what enters your mind first, your purpose or someone else's panic? Now eliminate one excuse you made yesterday. There is a subtle force that erodes greatness, not with fire, not with fury, but with quiet permission. It is the habit of making peace with excuses. Excuses often disguise themselves in soft language. I was too tired, I didn't feel like it, it wasn't the right time. They sound harmless, even reasonable, but they're not. They are the first cracks in the dam, the quiet surrender of your power. The moment you let one pass without challenge, you train your mind to believe it's acceptable to retreat under pressure. Excuses aren't just delays. They are lies in disguise, comfort dressed up as reasons. And the more you allow them, the deeper they bury into your identity. Tell yourself, I couldn't help it, often enough, and soon you believe you're the kind of person who never follows through, the one who always falls short. That shift is dangerous. Once a weakness becomes part of your self-concept, it controls you. You stop trying to overcome it and start defending it. But that is not your path. You're not here to defend weakness. You're here to defeat it. And that requires a daily practice, not of motivation, but of inspection. Each morning, turn on the light and look back at the previous day. Expose one excuse you gave yourself. Don't ignore it. Don't sugarcoat it. Write it down. Face it directly. I didn't finish because I was distracted. I skipped the hard task because it felt overwhelming. I wasted time talking about the goal instead of working on it. Then ask the hard question, is this who I am or who I've allowed myself to become? That single question draws a line in the sand. And once it's drawn, you decide which side you'll stand on. Will you let the excuse live as truth, or will you destroy it and replace it with power? Now, take the next step. Turn that awareness into a vow, not a wish, a vow. Wishes float, but vows take root. They bind you to action. Speak it clearly and simply. Today, I will work 2 hours without interruption. Today, I will finish the task before I mention being tired. Today, I will complete what I start, no matter how I feel. These are not empty promises. They are weapons, forged in self-respect and swung in daily battle. This habit of confronting and eliminating one excuse each day is like a craftsman sharpening his blade every morning before striking. He doesn't ask if the edge is dull. He knows it is, because use wears it down. And so, he sharpens anyway. A blade left dull becomes useless, and so does a mind left unchecked. Now picture this. A man sits quietly at his table. In front of him lies a list of undone tasks. Calls unmade, pages half-written, promises delayed. He picks up a pen, circles one item, and declares aloud, no more excuses. He doesn't wait for inspiration, doesn't negotiate with himself. He simply chooses to finish what weakness tried to interrupt. That single act reshapes the tone of his entire day. So the real question isn't whether you have excuses, we all do. The question is, what will you tolerate today? Will you let excuses lead, or will you rise above them, one by one, until they no longer define you? Each time you destroy an excuse, you elevate your life. Set a standard for your energy, because how you show up matters more than where you show up. That truth alone separates the powerful from the passive, the builders from the drifters. The world loves to talk about location, what city you live in, what office you walk into, what company you work for. But the real secret is this: success is not rooted in location, it's rooted in presence. It's not about where you are, but who you are when you arrive. You don't command a room just by standing in it. You command it by the way you enter, and that power doesn't begin at the door. It begins long before. It starts the moment you rise, the moment your eyes open. That's when the game begins. Most people move like leftovers, tired, reactive, resigned. They slump from bed into routine with no intention, letting the day pull them instead of deciding to pull the day. But you must be different. You must move before you are moved. Energy doesn't appear by accident. It's generated, cultivated, chosen. You can't expect to carry presence into a meeting if you haven't built power into your morning. And that power comes from small, invisible choices. Do you lie there waiting for motivation? Or do you swing your feet off the bed and move with strength? Do you drag through the start of your day half awake? Or do you breathe deeply, straighten your spine, and step with purpose? Every action trains you, and every motion either adds to your intensity or drains it. Energy is not just about feeling good. It's not hype. It's about presence, clarity, and direction. It's discipline. Like a muscle, it must be trained. Strength doesn't come from comfort. It's forged through consistent, deliberate demand. You don't wait to feel confident. You act with confidence until it grows. And you don't wait to be ready. You prepare until readiness defines you. Because if you don't cultivate this energy, the world will do it for you. And the world's default setting is fatigue, distraction, and scattered thought. If you let that seep in, you'll start the day behind, and every room you enter will feel heavier than it should. But if you choose your energy deliberately, if you stand tall when no one is watching, if you speak with intention even to yourself, if you move with control through simple routines, you begin walking into rooms differently. You carry yourself like someone who knows exactly why they're there. That presence is undeniable. Picture a man entering a small, ordinary shop. His clothes are plain, his steps quiet. Yet heads turn. Not because he demands attention, but because he doesn't. His posture is firm, his breath steady, his eyes clear. The room reacts not to his words, but to his energy. Calm yet strong, silent yet sharp. He radiates direction, not noise. Why? Because he trained it. He chose it. He didn't wait for the world to hand him energy. He brought it. That kind of presence shifts outcomes, and it begins long before the moment of performance. It begins in solitude, in your room, in the hallway, in the mirror. It's built in the discipline of deciding how you move, how you stand, how you breathe. So ask yourself, do you drift into your day with whatever feeling shows up first, or do you command it? Do you wait for the mood to arrive, or do you create it through movement, posture, and focus? You don't need a spotlight to build presence. You don't need a crowd to train intensity. All it takes is a moment and a decision to show up like it matters, because it does. You're not just walking into rooms. You're walking into destiny, into decisions, into battles and breakthroughs that demand your full self, not a version shaped by convenience. So tomorrow, before the world makes a single demand of you, make one of yourself. Show up before you're called, build your energy before you're tested, and carry your presence before you speak. That is how leaders move. That is how power enters the room. Not with noise, but with decision. Practice one act of mental resistance. The strongest people in the world don't always show their strength on the surface. They don't move with noise or boast about power. Their strength lies deeper, in a place no one sees. It's in their ability to say no. Not once, but again and again. That simple refusal to desire is the foundation of inner power. Because true strength isn't measured by lifting something heavy, but by resisting what is tempting. It's the discipline to delay pleasure, the mental fortitude to stay the course when comfort whispers detours. Each morning, before the world makes its demands, you must train that strength. Not with noise or grand declarations, but through a quiet act of resistance. Something small, something simple, something that reminds your body you are in charge. Take your coffee black, even if you prefer it sweet. Finish your reading before you eat. Step into work before you speak. These are not punishments. They are proof. Proof that you are not a slave to impulse. Proof that your mind responds to command, not craving. Proof that you are the master of your momentum. Why does this matter? Because temptation is everywhere. And it never arrives as danger. It comes disguised as ease, as just this once, as you deserve it. It doesn't break the strong in one strike. It chips away piece by piece. The man who cannot say no to sugar or sleep will never be able to say yes to the demands of greatness. Because greatness doesn't come gently. It demands sacrifice, precision, and focus. And these qualities are forged in daily decisions made in silence. Imagine a young man. The alarm rings at 5 a.m. The room is dark, the air is cold, and every part of him begs to stay under the blanket. To delay, to hit snooze. But instead, he throws it off, plants his feet on the floor, and whispers, "I said 5 a.m., so I rise at 5 a.m. That act may seem small, even insignificant, but it isn't. It's a declaration, a line drawn, a message to the mind. We don't bow to moods, we honor our word. Strength isn't forged in crowds or chaos. It's born in the quiet hours, witnessed only by your reflection. You don't need applause for these moments, because every small resistance stacks. Each one becomes a brick in your mental fortress. And when the real storms arrive, betrayal, failure, distraction, you'll be ready. Not because you trained in battle, but because you trained before it. You don't win life by reacting to what comes. You win by deciding who you are before the test. You write your code and you live it. You make your vow and you defend it. That's how warriors move. That's how leaders rise. They don't wait for motivation to do what's right. They need only the reminder of the promises they've made. So ask yourself, what resistance will you practice today? Will you deny the urge to reach for comfort? Walk one more lap when your legs ache? Hold your tongue until your words matter? These are the choices that sharpen you. These are the decisions that harden your will, not into stone, but into steel. Flexible, durable, unbreakable. The strongest version of you is never built by chance. It's built by challenge. Not only the ones life throws at you, but the ones you choose to throw at yourself. So every morning, give yourself one task of resistance, a quiet battle, an invisible victory. Not to prove something to the world, but to prove each day that your word carries more weight than your mood. That is the path to power. Not loud, but chosen. And it begins with one sentence that embodies your identity. Every day, you grow into what you speak. Not in theory, not as a metaphor, but in reality. Words aren't just sounds drifting into space. They're seeds, and your mouth is the soil. What you say takes root, builds momentum, and lays the track your thoughts, actions, and outcomes will follow. This is why your first words in the morning are never trivial. They are sacred, yet most people speak carelessly. They wake up saying, "I'm tired, I'm behind, I can't do this today." And instantly, they step into a day that feels heavy and unclear. But it wasn't the world that made it so. It was the script they wrote at sunrise. They surrendered before the battle even began. The wise, the builders, move differently. They speak with intention. They don't wait to feel confident before speaking with strength. They speak with strength to create confidence. Their words don't just describe their feelings, they direct their future. So they say, "I am the kind of man who finishes what he starts." Or, "I am the kind of woman who meets discomfort with fire." These aren't mere affirmations. They are identity statements. They don't ask for permission. They declare who they are becoming. And that declaration changes everything. Because if you don't define yourself, the world will do it for you. It will label you by your failures, your weaknesses, your past. And the world's labels are always too small, too shallow, too soft. That's why, before the world even gets a chance, you must speak. Not about who you were yesterday or how you feel right now, but about who you are becoming. Speak as the person already on that path. Not out of delusion, but out of decision. One sentence spoken aloud each day is enough, but it must be sharp, strong, and yours. It must pierce doubt and cut through fatigue. It cannot be just noise. It has to be a sword, one you can draw when the day pushes back, one you lean on when old habits creep in. This isn't about pretending you're never tired or overwhelmed. It's about choosing which truth you will magnify. You can tell yourself you're stuck, or you can tell yourself you're learning. You can say, "I can't," or you can say, "I'm not there yet, but I'm coming." You can complain it's too hard, or you can declare, "I'm built for hard things." The words may seem small, but the shift is massive. Over time, you begin to live by what you speak. Your identity rewires around it. Your decisions echo it. Your habits reinforce it. And your results reflect it. Not overnight, but certainly. So the real question isn't only what words you say, but what kind of person you are becoming each time you speak. If your words were bricks, what house are you building? If they were fuel, where are you driving yourself? If they were weapons, who are you arming? Your future self or your fears? You don't need the world to chant your name. You need only to choose the words that define you. You don't need crowds to believe in you. You need only a mirror, a voice, and a sentence that refuses to break, no matter how hard the day becomes. Choose it wisely. Speak it clearly. Repeat it until your actions catch up. And never forget, you are always becoming. So make sure every word you speak makes you stronger. Each morning, you must decide what you will endure. The world offers no promise of ease. Winds of difficulty will blow whether you welcome them or not. Pain will come, fatigue will test you, frustration will knock. But strength is not found in the absence of pain. It is born in choosing which pain to face. You cannot control if pain arrives, but you can decide if it breaks you or builds you. Most people rise with a quiet wish in their chest. Let today be easy. They pray not for strength, but for softness, not for growth, but for comfort. And while it feels harmless, that desire for ease is destructive. Comfort dulls your edges. It slows you down. It convinces you greatness can come without grit, but it never does. The strongest among us don't pray for ease. They don't beg for softness. They choose their pain, because they know if you don't, life will assign it for you. And the pain life gives by default is never the one that sharpens you. It's the kind that drains you. Regret, guilt, wasted time, lost years. That is the pain of avoidance, and it weighs far more than the pain of discipline. So every morning becomes a question of character. What pain am I willing to face today? And for what reward? Will you bear the ache of rising early when your body pleads for 5 more minutes? Will you endure the sting of silence when pride demands you lash out? This isn't masochism. This is maturity. It's the wisdom to see that short-term discomfort, when chosen wisely, becomes long-term power. Each time you endure what most people avoid, you separate yourself. You rise higher. You build grit, not in dramatic moments, but in daily decisions. Endurance is not just a trait, it's a contract with greatness. It's your signature on the promise. I will not run when it hurts. You tell yourself, I will stand. I will choose the fire that forges me, not the one that burns me for nothing. I will suffer early so I don't suffer later. I will endure now so I can rest when the mission is complete. Picture a man walking into the fields before dawn. Frost bites, his back aches, his fingers stiffen, his breath fogs in the cold air. Yet he smiles. Not because it's easy, but because it's chosen. He knows no harvest comes without the pain of this morning. Every ache is currency. Every step into the frozen field is an investment. The return won't come today, but it will come. Life always rewards those who stay when it's hard. The same is true in every field: business, health, relationships, and character. Growth requires planting, and planting always hurts. It demands effort, repetition, silence, waiting. It demands you push through what your body resists and your mind negotiates. In return, it offers fruit that only the disciplined will taste. Too many suffer by accident. They suffer because they didn't prepare, because they avoided the workout, the conversation, the discipline. And what follows is regret, weakness, and doubt. That's unnecessary suffering. That's pain without reward. And you are not here for that. You are here to suffer with purpose, to endure with intention, to feel the sting of resistance, not as punishment, but as a signpost. A reminder, this is where most people quit, and this is where you set yourself apart. So tomorrow morning, before you do anything else, make your choice. Decide what you're willing to endure. Say it out loud, not as a complaint, but as a commitment. I will endure the cold of early mornings. I will endure the silence of unseen work. I will endure the burn of pushing through the hard task, not because it feels good, but because it leads somewhere great. Let the world chase comfort. Let them beg for ease, but not you. You're not here for an easy life. You're here for a powerful one. A life built on decisions, not default. On will, not wish. And when the day tests you, as it surely will, stand tall, look it in the eye, and declare, I chose this. Because when you choose your suffering, it cannot own you. When you face pain with purpose, it cannot stop you. So I leave you with one final question, and the answer must be shown in your actions, not your words. What pain are you willing to face today to become who you were born to be? Remember the oath you once made with yourself. Maybe in the dead of night, while the world slept, you lay awake with fire in your chest and whispered, enough. A vow, quiet but unshakable. No applause, no witnesses, just you and your truth. Maybe it came after pain, disappointment, or facing a version of yourself you could no longer accept. Maybe it didn't rise in anger but in stillness, when you looked in the mirror and made a silent oath. I will rise above this. I will not keep living like this. I will change. Yet time has a way of dulling even the sharpest vows. The fire you once felt fades beneath the weight of routine. One morning you wake and realize that vow, once everything, has become a faint whisper buried under comfort, convenience, and noise. You recall it only vaguely, like a dream that once moved you but now feels distant. That's why, every morning without fail, you must revisit that promise. Not as nostalgia, but as a living vow. Return to your why. Return to the moment you swore you would no longer live small, no longer break under excuses, no longer tolerate habits that quietly destroyed you. You didn't make that vow from emotion. You made it from clarity, and clarity is rare. When it comes, you must build your life around it. What did you swear to change? Was it giving in too easily to distraction? Letting fear decide your future? Did you promise to stop letting anger rule your responses? Stop playing the victim? Stop shrinking to fit into spaces that never valued you? Did you declare, "I will never return to that weakness"? Did you whisper, "This time I finish"? Those words weren't light. They came from your soul. Write them again, speak them again. Not because you forgot, but because repetition builds belief, and belief fuels discipline. Discipline steadies you when motivation fades, and motivation always fades. Most people treat promises to themselves like passing weather. They say, "This is the last time," yet the next time comes easily. They declare, "I'm done," but continue the same cycles. They treat their own word as negotiable. But you cannot afford that, because each broken promise fractures the foundation of your strength. Every time you do it, your mind remembers. It learns your word cannot be trusted, and it stops believing you. Once that belief cracks, the world will sense it and reflect it back. That's why your vow must be sacred ground. It isn't something others need to understand. It's something you must protect with everything, because it's not just about action. It's about identity. It's about becoming someone who doesn't quit when things get hard, who doesn't retreat when discomfort arrives disguised as self-care. Picture a craftsman in a quiet workshop, the light dim, the air still. Each morning, before he begins, he sharpens his blade slowly, carefully. With every stroke he whispers, "I promised I'd become better." That vow doesn't make the work easier, but it makes it meaningful. It gives direction to every small decision. This is how excellence is built, not by chance, but by recommitting daily to the same promise others would have abandoned. You once made that oath in silence. It wasn't for show, and it wasn't for approval. It was born from pain, from clarity, from vision. Don't let convenience erase it. Don't let time make you passive. That promise still lives, but it needs your breath to stay alive. So ask yourself honestly, have you kept your word, or have you traded it for comfort? Are you moving in the direction you swore you'd go, or have you softened your ambition to make space for ease? It's never too late to return. It never is. Even if the path feels overgrown, your muscles stiff from delay, or your spirit worn down, pick up the promise again. Dust it off. Speak it aloud. Let it remind you of who you are and what you refuse to become. There is no power greater than the person who honors their own word. Be that person again. Be the one who returns to the fire. Not once, not twice, but every day, until the life you swore to build is no longer a vow, but your reality. See the struggle clearly, then step into it. Success never arrives by accident, nor does it belong to those who avoid difficulty. It belongs to those who face it early, directly, and deliberately. You don't win by dodging the hard parts. You win by attacking them while your energy is sharp, your mind clear, and your spirit willing. But that window is brief, and most people miss it. They wake with intention, but trade it for distraction. By the time they return to what truly matters, their will has weakened and their strength scattered. That is the quiet theft of delay. The greatest mistake is believing that avoiding the hard thing makes life easier. It doesn't. It only pushes the weight further onto your shoulders. Like a lion at the edge of camp, it grows more terrifying the longer you pretend not to see it. The more you sidestep that task, that conversation, that decision, the larger it looms until it consumes your focus and poisons your peace. Not because it's impossible, but because you didn't face it when you were strongest. The answer is simple. Face the lion first. In the quiet of the morning, before the world pulls you in 100 directions, go straight to the task you least want to do. Look at it. See its size. Imagine every step of the process. Let it stand fully in your mind, unhidden. Don't blink. Then step into it, not slowly, not with hesitation, but like someone who knows that clarity without action is just decoration. Ask yourself right now, what am I avoiding? Is it that overdue message you keep pushing aside? The first workout after weeks of excuses? The honest conversation you know you owe someone? Or the first step toward a new life you've only rehearsed in thought, but never acted on? Whatever it is, name it. Because what you name, you reclaim. And what you reclaim, you can conquer. You don't need to want to do it. You just need to do it because it must be done. That is the code of the builder, the craftsman, the leader. You don't show up when it's easy. You show up when it's necessary. And the hard things are always necessary, not as punishment, but as preparation. Every hard thing you face early in the day is a declaration. I'm in control. It straightens your spine, silences fear, and shifts momentum before doubt has time to wake. Picture a man at his desk. The room is still, the coffee warm. In front of him lie 3 letters. One carries weight, one sparks fear, one ties to a promise he's delayed. Most would push it aside until later. But not him. He picks up the letter he dreads, opens it, takes a deep breath, and begins. He doesn't wait for courage to arrive like a guest. He earns courage by moving, by acting, by doing what's hard before his mind can rationalize delay. That's what separates him. That's what turns his day into victory while others drift through theirs in a fog of postponement. You might think, I'll do it later when I'm ready. But the truth is, readiness is a trap. There is no perfect moment. There is only now, when your mind is clear and the noise is low. You either face the fire while you have strength, or wait until it burns you by force. Success favors those who step into the struggle before it grows larger. It favors those who say, this is what I've been avoiding. This is what I'll face first. That single act, small as it may seem, becomes the foundation for everything else. You start your day with a real win, one earned through grit, not chance. And that win sets the tone. It tells your mind, we rise. So the real question isn't how busy you are, or how much time you have. The real question is this: are you waiting for the right time, or are you stepping into the fire before it consumes you? Because the fire won't vanish. The task won't get easier. The lion won't shrink. But you can grow bolder. You can grow sharper. You can step into it with strength and earn the right to say, I didn't hide today. I let. Remind yourself of what you no longer tolerate. Great lives aren't built only on vision. Vision shows the mountaintop, but it doesn't carry you there. The climb demands more than dreams. It demands standards, firm, absolute decisions about what you will no longer permit in your life. Standards are not goals. They are boundaries, non-negotiables. Lines drawn in the sand that declare, this version of me ends here. You cannot rise without shedding. You cannot expand without first declaring what must end. Each morning, before the world pulls at your attention, remind yourself not only where you're going, but also what you've left behind. Remember the version of you that had to die so this new one could breathe. Recall the mediocrity you cast out, the weakness you silenced, the excuses you buried. This is not a ritual of guilt. It's a ritual of honor. You honor your growth by protecting it. You don't wake up powerful by default. You wake up neutral, and it's your standards that steer you back into strength. Say it aloud, not casually, but with conviction. I no longer tolerate laziness. I no longer waste time on small talk when purpose calls. I no longer stay silent when truth must be spoken. These aren't affirmations. They are commandments. The voice of your higher self refusing to negotiate with the habits of your lesser self. Most people fail to grow because they try to rise without letting go. They want to climb while dragging yesterday on their back. They hope to reach the next level while still holding on to the traits that kept them stuck at the last one. But you cannot climb carrying both the person you were and the one you're becoming. You must choose. And once you choose, you must protect it. Standards are like castle walls. They don't just keep weakness out. They keep strength in. Yet even the strongest walls need maintenance. Daily reminders, constant vigilance. If you don't reinforce your standards each morning, the world will wear them down, not in a single blow, but piece by piece. A small excuse here, a quiet compromise there, until the discipline that once burned bright begins to flicker. That is why you must guard what you've exiled. You must remember what you've buried. Think of the man who once drank every night. It began quietly, just a glass here and there, but over time it tightened its grip on his health, his family, and his very identity. Then one morning he rose early. The house was silent, his children still asleep. He looked into the mirror and said, no more. There was no applause, no spotlight, no fanfare. But in that moment, he buried the man he refused to be. Since that day, each morning he walks past the same bottle on the shelf. He sees it, feels its call, and whispers, not today. That whisper may seem small, yet it is stronger than any shout, because it is repeated, because it is honored, Because it remembers the vow he made. This is how strength is forged, not just in one act of resistance, but in a lifestyle of remembrance. Power is not built on a single decision, but on honoring that decision every day. So what about you? What mediocrity have you buried? Was it the version of you that complained more than created? The one who waited to be chosen instead of choosing? Or the voice that whispered, "I'm not ready. Maybe someday, just a little longer." That voice is no longer yours. That version is gone, or it should be, if you guard its grave. You don't need a crowd to witness your transformation. What you need is conviction, quiet, personal, unshakable conviction. Each morning, you must declare what is no longer welcome in your life. If you don't, old habits slip back in. They return disguised, wearing new clothes, pretending they've changed. But they haven't. That's why mornings matter. They aren't just the start of the day. They are a recommitment to who you are becoming. And becoming is never easy. It's uncomfortable. It requires friction. Yet true standards, unyielding, non-negotiable standards, will hold you steady when feelings try to drag you down. When life pushes back, those standards become your sword. You fight not for the world's approval, but to stay loyal to the self that once made the oath. You remember, I promised never to go back. That promise is sacred, and sacred things are never treated lightly. So ask yourself honestly, what did you bury yesterday? What version of yourself did you leave behind because it no longer deserved the life you are building? More importantly, are you guarding its grave or quietly letting it rise again? The world will test your limits, but your standards will decide your destiny. Don't just set them, defend them every single day. View the day before it begins. The greatest generals win battles long before they're fought, not with brute force or last-minute plans, but through preparation. The wisest minds don't scramble when storms hit. They've already built their shelter before the clouds appeared. This is how those who rise above chaos think. You must live the same way, not by guessing, not by hoping, but by rehearsing. Before the day starts, before the world pulls at you, before pressure arrives, run through it in your mind and master it first. This isn't worry. This isn't fear disguised as planning. This is readiness. Worry whispers, what if it goes wrong? Readiness declares, if it goes wrong, I'll be ready. One drains you before the challenge even comes. The other sharpens you so when it does, you respond with purpose, not panic. Every morning, walk through your day like a commander surveying the field, not to dread the fight, but to know the terrain. Picture every hour. See where your time will go. Spot the weak points where resistance may rise. Will it be in the cold morning when you want 10 more minutes in bed? In the afternoon slump when distraction pulls at you? In the tough conversation that tests your patience? Or in the heavy task you keep avoiding? Don't deny these cracks. Anticipate them. Strengthen them. Most people stumble through their days blind, waking up on autopilot and letting hours unfold however they may. Then they're shocked when emotions hijack their choices or distractions win. But you are not most people. The prepared are never surprised. They don't flinch when stress arrives, because they've already faced it in their mind. They've spoken to their weakness, decided how to hold their ground. Composure is built not in the moment of pressure, but long before it. You rehearse your response in calm, so you can move with strength when chaos comes. You walk into the challenge already armored. You don't shout when someone tests you, you breathe. You don't freeze when a task feels heavy, you break it down and move. You aren't waiting to discover who you'll be today. You've already chosen. Picture a shopkeeper preparing his store before dawn. The streets are still dark. There's no knock at the door, no rush outside. But he's awake. He counts his coins, checks his shelves, sweeps the floor, lights the lamp. By the time the first customer arrives, he isn't scrambling, he's ready. There's no anxiety in his body, no confusion in his eyes, because he claimed the day before it demanded anything of him. That's who you must become. Preparation isn't just about tasks. It's about behavior. You must master your schedule, yes, but more than that, command your behavior. Don't just plan your duties, plan your reactions, your posture, your mindset. Don't ask, what will today throw at me? Instead ask, how will I carry myself no matter what today brings? You know the weak spots. You know where you tend to fall. Maybe it's when you're hungry, when you're tired, or when you feel unseen. You know the voices that whisper when the day gets hard. Skip it just this once. You've earned a break. You're too tired to continue. That's not your soul speaking. That's your old self, soft, comfortable, aimless. You prepare for that voice. You rehearse your counter. You say, I know this moment will come. When it does, I won't fold. I'll rise stronger. You don't enter a storm wondering if your roof will hold. You reinforce it beforehand. You don't step onto the battlefield questioning if you have your sword. You sharpened it at dawn. That is the purpose of your morning rehearsal. It's the sharpening. It's the sweeping. It's the quiet discipline that builds visible strength. You cannot stumble into your day hoping for the best. You must stride into it knowing exactly how you'll respond. That certainty isn't arrogance. It's responsibility. It's maturity. It's leadership at its highest level. Because when you lead yourself well, you're capable of leading others. And the world needs more of that. So take a moment before each day begins. Sit in silence. Walk through it in your mind. Visualize the traps. Name the pressures. Prepare your response. Decide who you will be before anything asks you to prove it. That's how composure is born. That's how days are conquered before they even start. So ask yourself, will today catch you off guard, or will you walk into it as though you've already won? If you've done the work, mentally, emotionally, strategically, then today holds no fear. Because whatever it brings, you've already faced it in your mind, your spirit, and your preparation. That is how victory is won before the battle even starts. That's how you rise deliberately, every day, without being surprised. Train your mind to obey your first command. Strength isn't measured by how much you know, how many books you've read, or how many goals sit on a list. True strength comes from one thing: how quickly you act on what you already know. Knowledge is potential. Action is power. And in that small space between decision and movement, between order and execution, your character is either forged or fractured. Every morning your mind tests you. It doesn't scream. It whispers comfort, the soft seduction of delay. Later you'll rise. Later you'll focus. Later you'll begin the thing that supposedly matters. If you listen, that whisper becomes your reality, and you lose the first battle of the day. Not because the task was hard, but because the command went unheeded. That's how weakness grows. Quietly, decision by decision, delay by delay. You must reverse that pattern. Train yourself to obey your first command like a soldier standing at attention. Like a warrior who knows discipline isn't doing things only when they feel right. Discipline is doing them when they're ordered. When you say, get up, you get up. When you say, start, you start. No debate. No inner committee to drag you back into the swamp of hesitation. Every time you hesitate, you teach your brain that your word doesn't matter. So make your first moments count. Speak the command, then move before your mind argues. Act quickly on what you know, and you'll build momentum that turns into habit, and habit that turns into character. That is where lasting power lives, not in plans, but in the speed of your follow-through. That voice that says it can wait, that it can question your authority, is deadly. Not all at once, but slowly, it chips away at your edge. And when the real moment arrives, the one that truly matters, you won't have the sharpness to act. You'll hesitate, stall, or blink when you should strike. But each time you act instantly, each time you respond without delay, you reinforce strength. You sharpen your edge. You condition your mind to obey you, to move with power, to align with intention. That's when you begin to trust yourself. Because your actions finally match your words. And that trust becomes your steel. It's the foundation of confidence. Not because life is easy, but because you've proven that when you say go, you go. Start small. Don't wait for the big moments. Those are built on the little ones. When you rise, make your bed without thinking. Don't stretch it out, just act. When you plan to read, open the book right away. Skip the rituals, skip the setup, don't wait for the perfect mood. Just begin. Because it's not about the task, it's about the response. It's about training obedience, aligning discipline. You're not just forming habits, you're forging a soldier. And that soldier is you. Picture a blacksmith at his forge. The fire roars, the metal glows. He doesn't wait until he feels ready to strike. He doesn't pause to question the timing. He knows the truth. Strike while it's hot, or lose the form forever. That narrow window of heat is opportunity. Delay ruins it. Hesitation bends the blade in the wrong direction. He moves swift, certain, unapologetic. You are the blacksmith. Your life is the forge and your decisions are the hammer strikes. Hesitation dulls the blade. Strength is quiet. It doesn't need noise. The strongest people aren't the loudest about their goals. They simply move. No explanations, no permission, no performative confidence. They become the work through repetition until action is automatic. This is the training you must start today, not someday. It doesn't require dramatic overhaul. It starts with tiny acts of obedience. Can you tell yourself go and immediately go? Can you say now and move now? Give yourself a direction and follow it as if it came from someone you deeply respect. That's the secret. Begin to honor your own commands. Treat them like sacred orders from your higher self, because they are. That higher self speaks through intention, clarity, and vision. When you disobey it, you don't merely fail outwardly. You shrink inwardly. Each small compliance sharpens you. Each delay blunts you. So practice the instant response. Make the bed without thinking. Open the book when you plan to read. Start the task when you decide to start. These simple, repeated choices build a habit of obedience and a character that moves first and worries later. In time, the doing will outpace doubt, and the life you forge will be harder to break than any excuse. You dull your light and hollow out your confidence when you delay. But the moment you obey that inner voice, you rise. You grow solid. Others begin to notice, not because you announce your discipline, but because it radiates from you. You walk differently. You speak differently. Stop measuring potential by what you know and start measuring it by how fast you act on your truth. The gap between I should and I did is where your life is written. Make that gap ruthlessly short. No more waiting, no more internal courtrooms. Act. Ask yourself honestly. When you give yourself a command, do you obey or do you stall? Time will turn that answer into your future. Let your future be built on obedience, not hesitation. Let it be forged in motion, not debate. Move, strike, trust, train, and become unbreakable. Center yourself in silence before the world speaks. Noise is the enemy of clarity. It seeps in through alerts, headlines, and other people's agendas. If you don't carve out a sacred few minutes of stillness, your day will begin under pressure, not power. So before sunrise, before demands arrive, return to stillness, even for a short while. Resist the urge to rush into doing. Practice the rare discipline of simply being. From that calm, everything you choose to do will come sharper, truer, and more decisive. This is not laziness, not inaction, and not meditation in the decorative sense people often imagine. It is recalibration, the stillness that sharpens the blade before it swings. Just breath, presence, and awareness. No dialogue, no checklist, no rush. You're not there to fix or prove anything. You're simply arriving in your own life, fully and without interference. Most people never notice how loud their lives have become, not because the world is always shouting, but because their minds never stop racing. They wake up and launch straight into emails, noise, breakfast, expectations, and decisions. The machine starts running before the engine has even warmed. But here's the truth. Without silence, the soul shrinks. Without stillness, decisions lose strength. You may still act, still get things done, but your actions will come from reaction, not direction. Quiet doesn't waste time, it restores it. It gathers the scattered fragments of your mind, pulled apart by yesterday's chaos and tomorrow's worries, and brings them back to your center. From there, you remember who you are, what matters, where you're going, and what no longer deserves your energy. Silence doesn't mean nothing is happening. In fact, silence is often when the deepest things take place, shaping everything that follows. 55:21. You don't go to silence to escape the world. You go there to face it fully, to meet it on your own terms, not flinching, not scrambling, not pretending, but anchored, clear, calm, ready. The man or woman who begins the day in silence moves through the world with a different gravity. 55:38. They don't react to noise, they watch it. They don't chase answers, they wait for the right question to rise from within. They don't fear conflict, they've already faced the war inside, and they've made peace with it. 55:53. Picture a farmer standing at the edge of his land in the early hours. The fields are still cloaked in mist. The soil is wet with the breath of dawn. No machinery roars, no voices speak. He holds no tool. He doesn't move, he just watches, he listens, and in that moment of stillness, barefoot on the earth, breath calm in his chest, he gathers something no machine can measure: strength, presence, leadership. 56:15. He knows that in a few moments, the animals will stir, the workers will arrive, the sky will rise, but he must rise first, not physically, but mentally, spiritually. He stands in silence, not to delay the work, but to prepare for it, because the strength to steer the beasts, to weather the storms, to lead others, it does not come from noise. It comes from this still moment before the world begins. 56:39. You must become like that farmer, not in trade, but in temperament. You must begin each day by standing still long enough to remember, before the voices outside tell you who to be, before your calendar tells you what to do, before opinions, obligations, and the weight of the day press against your spine. You must return to your own name, your own mission, your inner voice, the one that never shouts, but always knows. There is a version of you that can only be reached in quiet. It won't come in the rush, it won't fight the noise. It appears only when the dust settles and your mind grows still. And when it arrives, you'll feel the difference. Your breath deepens, your thoughts untangle, your pace slows, yet your precision sharpens. You speak less, but with more weight. You do less, but achieve more, because you're no longer driven by chaos. You're guided by clarity. So ask yourself, how do you begin your mornings? Do you jump straight into the battle, tackling tasks before you've even prepared? Or do you carve out a pocket of silence, a moment to remember who commands your life? Your morning isn't just the start of the day. It's the foundation for everything that follows. A cracked, chaotic start can't support a strong structure, but a calm, focused beginning can carry the weight of the world with grace. That's your opportunity every single day. Before the noise, before the headlines, take a breath. Even 2 minutes in stillness can anchor you. Not in what the day demands, but in what your soul needs to stand strong. Because in the end, the strongest lives are not built in reaction, but in remembrance. And remembrance begins in silence. The question is yours. Will your morning be shaped by chaos or anchored in quiet strength? Touch what you're building. Don't just think about it. Ideas are easy, and thoughts feel safe. Inside your mind, everything flows perfectly. The book is flawless, the business thrives, the body grows stronger, the code runs smoothly. But none of it is real, yet. Thought is only the seed. Creation begins not in the head, but in the hands. The moment you touch your craft directly, without delay, you remind yourself of the truth. You're not here to dream, you're here to build. There's a sacred window each morning before the world intrudes, before the texts, the headlines, and the demands of others. It's quiet, still, entirely yours. What you choose in that space matters. It sets the tone and tells your spirit what kind of day it will be. So reach for your tools. Lay your hands on the work. Not tomorrow, not when it's convenient, but now. Even if it's only 5 minutes. Even if you're tired. Even if the effort feels awkward or small. That first act isn't about progress. It's about ownership. You claim it the moment you touch your notebook. You place your fingers on the keys, edit the draft, stretch your limbs, run a brush across the canvas, scan a single line of code, or pick up the hammer. You move the needle forward. It doesn't matter if you finish something. Completion isn't the ritual, initiation is. Each action anchors you to your identity. You remind your mind and body, this is who I am, this is what I do. Your hands aren't just for labor, they're reminders. They bridge intention and reality. When your hands meet the task, your spirit rises. It wakes and whispers, yes, I remember why I began. That first touch, that imperfect step, is where the fire returns. Most people start their day planning, reviewing, or thinking, and while those have value, they carry a danger. Thought without action turns into fog. It clouds clarity and builds false confidence. You feel busy, but you've created nothing. You feel motivated, but you've moved nowhere. That's how weeks disappear, lost in the comfort of preparation. But the moment you act, the fog begins to lift. The pressure lifts. You're no longer standing at the edge of the pool. You've stepped in. Something shifts the moment you choose to act. Hesitation loosens its grip. Doubt grows quieter. You don't need to finish the race. You just need to take the first stride. Because once you move, momentum follows. Picture a painter before dawn. The house is silent, the world's still asleep. He sits before the canvas, not to finish a masterpiece, but to begin. One dip of the brush, one stroke on the canvas. That single motion roots him, anchoring him in action. He's no longer just imagining, he's creating. In that stroke, he shifts from dreamer to builder. That's the power of beginning. You must train yourself to start, not just in thought, but in motion. The physical world is where results appear, where books are written, bodies are trained, businesses are built. Fear only thrives in inaction, but it fades once you move. This isn't about perfection or flawless execution. It's about setting a rhythm of movement. You don't need the perfect morning or to check off every detail of your plan. You simply need to pick up the tool and use it. 5 minutes with your craft outweighs 50 minutes thinking about it. 5 minutes moving is worth more than an hour planning how to move. Action, no matter how small or awkward, is the antidote to hesitation. It breaks inertia and reminds you that you are capable, not someday, but right now. So ask yourself, will this morning begin with more thought or with action? Will you drift in plans and concepts? Or will you touch the work you claim to love? Will you wait for motivation? Or will you start before fear has a chance to take hold? Your tools are waiting. The keyboard, the sketchpad, the barbell, the strings, the spreadsheet, even the silence and the space. They're not asking for perfection, only presence. Because the truth is, you become who you are through motion. Every time you touch your craft, you cast a vote for the version of you that refuses to hide behind potential. Let others stay lost in their planners and endless lists. You, pick up the brush, strike a key, write a line, take a breath, and begin. Your future isn't built in your head, it's built with your hands. So start now. Touch your craft and make it real. Each day arrives like a wave, loud, powerful, and full of demands. Messages flood in, responsibilities pull at you, distractions beg for attention. Before you've even paused, you're pulled in 100 directions. It's easy to believe success comes from doing more, covering more ground, answering every call. But the truth is far simpler and far more powerful. Your job isn't to do more. It's to do what matters. And the quickest way to uncover that is by asking the one question that slices through the noise. What would the strongest version of me do right now? Not the comfortable version, not the clever one armed with excuses, but the strongest version. The one built on vision, discipline, and truth. That version doesn't chase convenience or settle for distraction. It acts with purpose, not impulse. This single question resets your day. It breaks autopilot. It halts the quiet drift toward mediocrity. It sharpens every choice, not by adding complexity, but by removing confusion. It doesn't ask what feels good. It asks what builds me. And that subtle shift changes everything. Ask it when you wake. Would the strongest me stay in bed or rise and face the day with power? Ask it when you dress. Are you choosing what's easy or what makes you carry yourself with presence? Ask it when you eat. Are you fueling your body or just feeding a craving? Ask it when you pick your first task. Are you moving the needle or hiding in busy work? And don't just ask, act. Because knowing what the strongest version of you would do means nothing if you won't follow through. You must treat the answer not as a suggestion, but as an order from the future self you're becoming. Picture a man standing at a fork in a dirt road. One path climbs steep and uneven into the quiet. The other slopes downward, wide and easy. For a moment, he hesitates. He knows the downhill path will be faster, easier, familiar. But then the question echoes in his mind. What would the strongest version of me do? And with that, he turns uphill. Not for pleasure, not to suffer, but because the harder path is the one of growth, sharpening, and becoming. He chooses it not with excitement, but with conviction. That question can be your compass, your inner guide through the fog of modern life. But it only works if you answer honestly, without flinching. Often, the answer will cost you comfort, convenience, and false ease. Yet what it gives in return is power, and more importantly, self-respect. The strongest version of you isn't a fantasy or some distant figure. It already lives within you, quiet, waiting. Each time you choose strength over comfort, it steps forward. It takes root. It gains ground. And you don't build that version through theory, but through repetition, by asking the question again and again in the unseen moments. When no one is watching, when no one would blame you for taking the easy way, when no one would notice if you gave half effort or quietly quit. Those are the moments where strength is either forged or forgotten. And here's the truth. Most of your day is shaped by small moments. The choice to send that message you've been avoiding, the decision to speak truth or stay silent just to keep the peace. This question pulls you back to yourself. It cuts through the fog of indecision. It demands clarity, and it strips away the mask of victimhood. When you ask, what would the strongest version of me do? You take responsibility. You're no longer at the mercy of circumstances or negotiating with weakness. You step into authorship, declaring, I choose my actions, not my feelings, not my fears. Over time, that choice becomes identity. You stop needing to ask the question because you've become the answer. People feel it when you enter a room, not because you're louder, but because you're clearer. You're not drifting or guessing. You've faced the hard questions and answered them with action. So ask it as the day begins. What would the strongest version of me do? Would they complain or create? Hesitate or begin? Indulge or prepare? Numb out or face the work? The answer won't always be easy, but it will always be clear. And clarity is rare, precious, in a world drowning in distraction. Today will try to pull you in 100 directions. It will tempt you with shortcuts, with comfort, with later and next time. But in those moments, you have a weapon, a compass, a voice that rises above the noise. What would the strongest version of me do? Ask it. Answer it. Act on it as if your future depends on it, because it does. As if you were starting over. Time has a way of wearing down passion. Even the brightest flame fades if left unattended. Even the noblest mission grows dull unless it's rekindled. That's why every morning, before the noise, before urgency pulls at you, before excuses whisper, you must recommit. Not casually, not half-heartedly, but fiercely and deliberately. You cannot assume yesterday's fire will carry into today. Passion isn't permanent. Hunger fades, memory slips, and the emotions that once set your heart ablaze weaken under routine, unless you reignite them. You must speak it, declare it, own it. Each day, before the world tries to wear you down, you return to the mirror, to the page, to your mission, and say, I still want this. I still choose this. I'm willing to suffer for this again. That act, small in time but massive in meaning, marks a true finisher. It's not the loud, dramatic gesture that wins. It's the quiet, daily choice to stay in the fight. Most people don't fail because their dream was foolish. They fail because they forget what it felt like to begin. They forget the spark, the hunger, the promise they made to themselves when the fire was still alive. And so they drift. They slow down. They start saying, maybe it's not meant to be. But the truth is, they simply forgot. When memory fades, momentum dies. But not you. You return. You report for duty like a soldier. Not because it's easy, not because it thrills you, but because the mission still matters. You don't hide from the cost. You face it. You step back onto the battlefield with eyes wide open, fully aware of what the dream demands, and you say, I'm still willing. That is strength. That is maturity. That is the power of recommitment. Picture a mason before a half-built cathedral. There is no applause, no crowd. Only him, his tools, and another stone. He kneels, sets the brick with care. To the outside, it looks like nothing, progress too slow to matter. But in his mind lives the vision. Towering spires, grand halls, stained glass catching morning light. He sees it, not because it's finished, but because he remembers. That memory fuels him. That memory makes one more brick worth laying. This is what you must do. Your work may not always feel glorious. Some days will seem dull. Some days you'll wonder if it's moving fast enough, if the sacrifice is worth it. That's why you return to your why. Why did you start? Who did you vow to become? What dream once felt sacred? Repetition without conviction dies. Going through the motions turns builders into wanderers. But repetition with belief, that builds cathedrals. That creates mastery. That's what separates finishers from those who stall. Don't just keep going out of habit, guilt, or fear of starting over. Recommit. Take a breath. Speak your vow again. Say it with energy. Say it with eyes forward. Because you are no longer the same person who first stepped on this path. You are stronger, wiser, tougher, but you still must choose it. Not once, but every single day. Because choice is power. Each time you reclaim that choice, you reclaim your fire. No matter how tired you feel, no matter how slow the progress, or how many setbacks you've faced, the moment you choose your path again, you renew your authority over it. Yes, discipline matters. Yes, systems matter. But beneath it all is a heart that still wants it. And if that desire fades, the structure collapses. So tend to it. Feed it. Speak to it. Remember why you dared to begin. This is not weakness. It's how the strong endure. They don't just survive. They reignite. They don't just repeat actions. They reclaim meaning. The real question is not whether you're still going. Many people keep going, lost in routine, meeting deadlines, but forgetting the soul behind the work. Are you simply continuing, or are you truly recommitting? There is a difference between moving and marching, between working and building, between routine and ritual. That difference is fueled by emotion, intention, and the fire you choose to relight each morning, before the world tells you who to be or what to fear. Before you act, return to your mission. Return to your why, not just in your head, but in your heart. Out loud, let your own voice remind you, I still want this. I still choose this. I'm willing to suffer for it again. That's not weakness, that's warriorhood. Greatness is forged not in bursts of passion, but in the quiet mornings of decision. So don't just continue today. Recommit. Strengthen one weakness. Every person carries one. It's not always obvious, not always loud. Sometimes it hides in hesitation before a choice, in the irritation that slips into your voice, or in the pull toward distraction instead of discipline. These weaknesses are subtle, easy to excuse, easier to ignore. But here's the truth. What you ignore grows. Weakness doesn't vanish with time. It multiplies in silence, feeding off neglect, until it becomes a weight heavy enough to bend even the strongest backs. The difference between those who rise and those who fall isn't whether they have weaknesses. Everyone does. The difference is how they face them. Most people pretend they're fine. They chase bigger goals, piling them on top of old cracks, hoping a weak foundation will somehow hold. But deep down, they know. They know there's a spot they've avoided, a behavior they've excused, a pattern they've disguised as just who I am. And that's how the cracks deepen. That's how the house falls. But you choose differently. Each morning, you do what most never dare. You turn toward the shadow. You shine a light on it. Not to shame yourself, but to strengthen yourself. You choose one small weakness. Not the whole structure, not every flaw, just one beam, one joint, one edge that's begun to dull, and you apply pressure. Not out of panic, but with consistency, discipline, and the quiet conviction that today, in this one place, you will not slip. Maybe it's your patience. You've snapped too easily. So today, you breathe when the fire rises. You speak slower. You hold your ground. Maybe it's your posture. You've been collapsing inward, letting your body signal defeat before your mind even begins to focus. So today, you stand taller. Shoulders back, chin steady. Or maybe it's your attention. You've been drifting, letting focus scatter. So today, you catch yourself when your mind wanders. You bring it back, again and again. This isn't glamorous work. No one applauds you for fixing what can't be seen. But this work is real, and it builds something no praise ever could, inner confidence. Not because you are flawless, but because you are aware. Because you are the kind of person who notices the crack and moves toward it, not away. Picture a carpenter in a quiet room, sunlight streaming across wooden beams. The structure looks solid. Everyone else says it's good enough. But he walks the perimeter, presses his hand on one post, taps it with his knuckles, and listens. There's a hollow sound, a slight give. He frowns. This one needs replacing. Not because it's broken today, but because he knows what time does to a weakness left alone. He doesn't wait for the wall to collapse. He acts now, quietly, decisively. That's what you must become, a quiet craftsman of your own strength. A builder who refuses to chase flashy additions until the frame is reinforced. It is harder, yes. It is slower, but it is the only path that endures. This habit, this daily turning inward, is not about perfection or self-criticism. It's about integrity. It's about becoming the kind of person who trusts their own footing because they've tested it, repaired it, and earned it. When you do this day after day, you don't just walk taller, you move differently. You don't flinch under pressure because you've already faced pressure in the mirror. Most people will never do this. They'll chase results, shout about progress, but deep down they'll know what they ignored. And that hidden knowledge will haunt their confidence. You don't need to scream about growth, you need to live it. And living it begins with asking the hard question, where have I been slipping? Not to punish yourself, but to reclaim yourself. Because here's the truth, if you don't repair the small cracks now, life will split them wide open later. The temper you dismiss will damage your relationships. The laziness you excuse will cost you opportunities. The pride you hide will block your growth. The hesitation you justify will steal your momentum. But if you face even one of them today, with one honest moment, one act of correction, you've already changed your trajectory. You've strengthened something inside that most people never touch. So before the noise of the day pulls you in a dozen directions, pause. Take one breath. Look inward. Find the quiet place that's begun to weaken and act. You don't need to fix everything. You don't need to announce it. Begin with one flaw, one beam, one shadow. You are not weak for having flaws. You are strong because you face them. Ask yourself honestly, with no mask and no excuse. What small crack will I strengthen today before it becomes a break? Then go, tap the beam, test it, replace it. Because what you repair in silence becomes the strength that speaks for you. Start before you feel ready, every single day. Readiness is a lie comfort whispers. It's that soft voice saying, just a little more time. It dresses delay as wisdom, but it isn't wisdom, it's stalling. Most people start their mornings organizing tools, reviewing goals, imagining the day ahead. They convince themselves it's preparation, but really, they're waiting. They wait for the spark, for clarity, for energy, for permission. But greatness doesn't wait. Greatness moves. It begins in motion, not in motivation. It doesn't need the perfect mood, or the fears to vanish, or the clouds to part. It takes the first step, cold, uncertain, unglamorous. Because those awkward first steps create the very readiness others keep waiting for. Each morning you must remind yourself of this truth. Movement creates readiness, not the other way around. Action comes before motivation. Movement creates momentum. If you sit waiting to feel ready, you'll remain on the edge of your life, watching it pass. The moment will always stay just ahead, never now. This is how you take back control. Not by mastering every detail first, but by becoming the person who acts before feeling qualified. The one who trusts movement over mood. Even before the doubt clears, the plan is perfect or the path is paved. Picture a man staring at a blank page. His chest feels heavy, his mind fogged. He feels no spark, no inspiration. Yet instead of retreating, he writes a single sentence. It isn't brilliant, it isn't perfect, but it's a beginning. From that one line, his hand keeps moving, his mind begins to follow, the fire returns. The work doesn't start because he was ready, it starts because he began. So the real question is not whether you feel ready. The question is, what will you begin today? Not because it feels right, but because it is time. If you want control of your life, start with control of your mornings. One purposeful action sets the tone for everything that follows. Don't wait for motivation. Don't wait for the perfect day. Create it. Begin at sunrise. Make this your new standard, quietly, consistently, relentlessly. Soon the world will reflect the order, focus, and strength you built before anyone else even woke up. The day is yours because you claimed it. Wishing you health, happiness, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel, Mindset Daily.